Mark Kris again, talking about a recent meeting in New York of the New York Lung Cancer Foundation, a summit meeting called the Call to Action. This meeting was held in mid-March, and it brought together investigators from all over the world in medical specialties, in regulatory, patients, advocacy groups, and also our pharma partners. And some of the high-level things that people talk to, I guess, everybody was stoked that we need to do a better job. We need to define what these questions are, and as an international community fighting this disease, work together to do that. Again, the meeting went from screening to diversity, all kinds of issues that need to be faced. But a couple of things that I would like to put at the top of the list. I think the first is that now that we have curative therapies, both for locally advanced disease, coupling systemic therapies and radiation or surgery, and even for metastatic disease using a checkpoint inhibitor, we now have to prioritize cure. At this meeting, as great as it was, I didn't hear a single talk where people said, this is the current cure rate in there that we have in this stage, and how are we going to improve on that cure rate? Nobody approached it that way. Agreed, we don't have a consensus definition of what cure is, and that's part of the problem, but we need one. And what we really need, and what our patients have asked us for, is to provide more cures. The best quality of life is life cancer-free. That only comes from a curative strategy. So we need to prioritize cure across the board, in the laboratory, in the clinic, in designing clinical trials where we already have cure. We got to make more cures. Surgical cases, concurrent chemotherapy and radiation, and for stage 4 disease with checkpoint inhibitors. I think the other thing that became clear is that now 20 years of research in acquired resistance in the EGFR space has not led to a breakthrough. And I put it to you that perhaps we need to pivot from this focus on resistance to do a better job to a focus on persistence. Take those tumors after some initial exposure to our best therapies and study those tumors, because the cells remaining in those patients are the cells that are going to persist, grow, and then go on and end the lives of our patients. I think we've given looking at resistance a good run, but however, at the time of resistance, the cancer cell has had often years to develop pathways to block the effects of our most effective therapies. Now, it's absolutely unclear exactly what to look at in these persistence cases. However, there are some ideas there. And secondarily, I think we've seen that looking at resistance has led to no breakthroughs. Yes, there's been some new therapies that have come along, but no breakthroughs. So to really take the next step, we need to pivot from resistance to persistence as a community. We need to get those persistent specimens to our labs, and we get to get our laboratory scientists to work with that. And I think lastly, there was a great consensus at this meeting that we need to change the rules onto how we test drugs, both in the regulatory way and in the clinical trial design way. So it falls to us, I'm going to speak for our practitioners now, to come up for trials that are simpler and clearer, and that the trial design fits the situation that we are studying. So I think if I could just read, we need to change the rules for trials and drug approvals when warranted by the data and by the clinical need. Again, this is not a blanket rule, but where the data suggests, and I'll pick on that recent controversy with the phase 3 trial of selpercatinib, where the data that led to the trial, the preliminary data suggests a absolutely huge benefit to one of the interventions, in that case, the selpercatinib, 80+% response rate. It's a different kind of trial, and the rules have to be different. I think our regulators are open to this, and I'll point to that Pragmatica trial that's being underway, led by SWOG. They're using a very pared down clinical design, a very pared down but focused way of collecting the necessary information, and agreement from the regulators, in this case the FDA, that the data from this pared down trial, focused trial, I should call it focused rather than pared down, because they're focusing on the important endpoints, that if they achieve their goal, that trial can be used for regulatory filing. So here's an example where we all came together, cooperative group, practitioners, patient groups, regulatory authorities, to do this. This is a great model, and we need to do this across the board. We need to do it worldwide. And of course, it has to be informed by the data, preliminary data that leads to the trial, and also the critical need too. We got to get agents that for disease groups with no benefit by current therapies to get these drugs to them faster. So there was a lot of great discussion, and I have to say willingness by everyone around the world. We just have to make it happen.